Hi everybody, it's Pastor Blake here with a quick drive-by for you. I ran into this passage in Psalms a couple of weeks ago as we've been planning ways to get ourselves back into church, back into the building to worship kind of the way we used to. We've been outside, but we're always thinking about ways to move the ball forward a yard at a time. How do we get back inside? So let me read you this passage that kind of jumped out at me from Psalm 132. It's verses 1 to 9. Remember, O Lord, in David's favor, all the hardships he endured, how he swore to the Lord and vowed to the Mighty One of Jacob. I will not enter my house or get into my bed. I will not give sleep to my eyes or slumber to my eyelids until I find a place for the Lord, a dwelling place for the Mighty One of Jacob. Behold, we heard of it in Ephrathah. We found it in the fields of Jaar. Let us go to his dwelling place. Let us worship at his footstool. Arise, O Lord, and go to your resting place, you and the ark of your might. Let your priests be clothed with righteousness, and let your saints shout for joy. Now, one thing you have to love about David in the Old Testament is he is really dismayed that the Lord does not have his temple yet. And what that also means is that Israel is unable to properly worship God until there is a house for the Lord. So a couple of things jump out at me about this passage and about our current circumstances, us trying to get back into the house of the Lord. And the first one was David's self-denial. David vowed not to rest until the Lord had his resting place. They all had houses, and he's like, there is no house for the Lord. So he was willing to deny himself the luxury of the status quo. And, self-denial may also mean denying ourselves a little bit too, in that we may not get 100% of what we think should be happening when it comes to meeting together again. Now, the second thing I notice is in verse 9, and it says this, it says, may your priests be clothed in righteousness. Now, all Christians are a part of the priesthood. And what does righteousness mean? Well, we know that are none that are righteous. It says it in the Bible. It says it in Isaiah in the Old Testament even. Part of Christian righteousness rests in us knowing that we're probably not right all the time, that we haven't been living by the law, that we can't, that we don't know everything, and it involves a little bit of humility, even when it comes to COVID. We don't have all the answers. Nobody does. So the way to righteousness, though, the law actually, per Jesus, is one of the ways is loving your neighbor as yourself. It's summed up by Jesus. So when we talk about a house for the Lord, there's going to be self-denial. There is going to be a search for righteousness, admitting that we don't have the answers. And as we try to thread the needle, many times over, believe me, as we try to thread that, there's going to be an effort to love your neighbor. There has to be. So if you're on one side of the argument and you're a serious anti-masker, we should go to church and not wear masks, right? What that means, if you're going to deny yourself, a little self-denial is, hey, be willing to wear a mask. And respect the fact that there are nervous people out there. So we're going to be willing to tone down, like grabbing people in a bear hug when we see them for the first time, or even shaking hands. Now, for the serious maskers out there that, are nervous about this, we're going to have to be a little bit of self-denial ourselves too. We're going to be willing to come out of the basement sooner or later. And we're going to have to be willing to be out there with people who don't necessarily agree with us. So we're not going to condemn them, but we're going to wear our mask and maybe put ourselves out there just to click toward us being a little uncomfortable, right? Because we want to love our neighbor, so we're willing to kind of step out and be just a little bit uncomfortable for them. Now, if we're doing these things, if we're looking for a house for the Lord, and we're doing it with self-denial, and we're doing it as we search for righteousness, knowing we don't have the answers. And if we're trying to love our neighbor, you put those things together, and what you get is the second half of verse 9. And the different translation says this: we're doing it all for this, so that your faithful people can sing for joy. God bless you guys, and catch you next time.